I want to start with something honest. I've wasted time, too much of it, watching other people's lives like they were a measuring stick for my own. Scrolling, comparing, doubting, thinking, why do they have it together and I feel like a mess? And here's the thing, it didn't make me better. It didn't help me grow. It only made me smaller. We live in a world that's loud. A world that says, oh, look over there, at her body, at his success, at their perfect little life. But rarely does it say, look inward. And that's where the magic is. Inward. That's where the healing is. Where the power lives. Because when you finally decide to stop using other people as a mirror, you get to see yourself clearly. Not in comparison, not in competition, but in compassion. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean you're selfish, it means you're brave. Brave enough to ask, what do I need? What do I believe? What does my version of success, love, peace, look like? It takes courage to stop watching others and start listening to yourself. Because once you do, once you quiet the noise, you will realize you were never behind. You were just busy living someone else's timeline. And maybe you've been taught to hustle for your worth, to prove something, to keep up. But what if you didn't? What if your value isn't up for debate? What if your journey is worthy? Even if it's slow, even if it's messy, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. So today, I'm inviting you to pause, to put down the comparison, to stop chasing the life you think you should have and start building the one that feels like home, not for them. For you. Because when you focus on yourself, really focus, everything changes. Not because you become perfect, but because you become real. And real is where life begins. Thank you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone else's life and thought, why not me, their success, their smile, their confidence? And suddenly, without even realizing it, you feel less, smaller, not enough. We don't mean to do it. Comparison doesn't knock on the door politely. It just walks in, through a scroll, through a conversation, through a moment of doubt. And when it arrives, it brings one message: you're not doing enough. But here's what I know to be true. Comparison is the thief of joy. Not just joy. It steals your peace. It hijacks your purpose. It silences your voice. Because the second you start measuring your worth by someone else's story, you stop writing your own. We're taught to look sideways instead of inward, to see what they have instead of what we hold. But the truth is, your journey is not meant to match anyone else's. Your path, your pace, your purpose, it's yours for a reason. Focusing on yourself isn't about ignoring others. It's about returning home to you. It's about asking hard, honest questions. What do I want? What matters to me? What am I proud of today? Even if no one claps for it. And yes, it takes courage. It's vulnerable to stop performing and start being real. But there's something powerful, something freeing about turning down the noise of the outside world and tuning into your own. You don't owe the world a perfect version of yourself. You owe yourself an honest one. So the next time you feel yourself slipping into comparison, pause, breathe. Remember that what you see in others is only a snapshot, not the whole story. And you? You're still unfolding, still becoming. Let that be enough to. Because the more you focus on becoming the person you were meant to be, the less power comparison has. And in that space, joy can return, peace can grow, and your own voice, the one you've buried under other people's opinions, can finally rise. Focus on yourself, not because others don't matter, but because you do. We're pretty good at being hard on ourselves, aren't we? We judge, we overthink, we compare. We carry this quiet belief that if we're tough enough on ourselves, we'll change. That shame is some kind of motivator. But here's the hard truth. Self-judgment doesn't lead to growth. It leads to exhaustion, to hiding, to pretending we're okay when we're actually falling apart. What does lead to growth? Self-awareness, the courage to get curious instead of critical, to ask, what's really going on with me right now? Instead of jumping to, oh, I should be better than this. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean obsessing over your flaws. It means noticing what you feel, what you need, and who you're becoming, with gentleness, with honesty, with grace. But when we're caught up in other people's stories, comparing their confidence to our insecurity, their highlight reel to our behind the scenes, we lose touch with our own truth. And that's when judgment creeps in. That voice that says, you're not enough. You should be further along. You should be more like them. But self-awareness says something different. It says, hey, you're human, you're learning. Let's understand, not punish. You are not a problem to be fixed. You are a person to be understood. And the more you understand yourself, really see yourself, the less you need to chase someone else's life. Because it turns out peace doesn't come from doing more. Or being more, it comes from being honest with who you already are. So here's my invitation. Start replacing judgment with curiosity. Start trading shame for self-reflection. Start showing up for you, not the version of you you think the world wants to see. Because when you stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward for truth, everything begins to shift. And that's where real freedom lives. We live in a world that's constantly pulling our attention outward. To other people's opinions, other people's success, other people's lives. And sometimes it's easier to stay there, distracted, busy, endlessly scrolling, than to ask ourselves the harder questions. Because looking inward, that takes courage. It's one thing to observe someone else's life. It's another to sit quietly with your own, to ask, what am I really feeling? Or, oh, where am I hurting? Or, what am I avoiding? Focusing on yourself, truly focusing, isn't selfish. It's brave. It's choosing to be honest over being perfect. It's facing your own patterns, your pain, your healing, with compassion instead of shame. And that kind of inner work, it doesn't come with applause. No one sees it. No one claps for it. But it's the kind of work that changes your life. Because when you stop using other people as a distraction from your own reflection, you start to grow. You stop performing and start becoming. Looking inward might uncover things you've been avoiding. Fear, resentment, grief, even dreams you put on hold. But it also reveals your strength, your resilience, and that quiet, steady voice that says, you're still here and you're still worthy. The truth is, we can't heal what we're unwilling to see, and we can't grow if we're always trying to be someone else. So today I want to remind you, your greatest transformation won't come from comparing your life to someone else's. It will come from the moment you choose to turn inward. Not toward you. With softness, with honesty, with courage, focus on yourself. Not because others don't matter, but because your own soul is asking to be seen and you're finally ready to answer.